I was coming home from deployment, my first Christmas with family in years. The Pacific Northwest rain was already soaking through my jacket when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my dad, David. It read, "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. I just replied with a single word, "Understood." Then I checked into a sterile Airbnb, opened my laptop and made a quiet change to the paperwork. 48 hours later there were 7 missed calls. One of them was from their lawyer. Before I tell you what I did next, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's standing watch with me tonight. The Airbnb smelled like ozone and expensive detergent. It was a glass box of a house, perched on a cliff overlooking the gray Pacific, completely sterile and completely silent. It was the opposite of the drafty, clutter-filled Victorian I had grown up in, the one I was currently forbidden from entering. I sat at the kitchen island and opened my laptop. The screen's blue light was the only thing cutting through the gloom. I logged into my banking portal. The interface was familiar, a digital map of where my life's work had gone for the last 4 years. I scrolled down to the recurring transfers. There was, right at the top, $3,500. Scheduled for the first of every month. Label, house payment. I hovered my cursor over the cancel button and for a second I hesitated. Not out of guilt but out of a sudden, blinding realization. For years I had told myself this was duty. I told myself I was the strong one, the capable one, the one who kept the roof over our heads because my father, David, couldn't manage his own finances. I told myself it was love. But staring at that text message on my phone, "Christmas is better without you," the lie disintegrated. I wasn't paying a mortgage. I was paying a membership fee. That is exactly what it was. I had been paying a monthly subscription cost to be considered a daughter. I was paying a premium to be the sister who saves the day. I had convinced myself that if I just paid enough dues, eventually I would earn equity in this family. I thought if I wrote enough checks I would eventually buy their respect. But respect wasn't for sale. Only their tolerance was. And tonight my father had made it clear that my membership had been revoked. I wasn't welcome at the club anymore. And if I wasn't a member I certainly wasn't going to pay the dues. I clicked cancel. A little pop-up window appeared asking if I was sure. It warned me that this action couldn't be undone and might result in late fees for the recipient. I didn't feel a spike of panic. I didn't feel sad. I just felt the cold satisfaction of correcting an accounting error. I clicked confirm. The line item turned gray then vanished. But I wasn't done. I scrolled down. Below the mortgage was another transfer. $500 labeled renovation fund. This was supposed to be for the roof that had been leaking since I was 12, the one David claimed he was saving up to fix. I realized I had sent nearly $24,000 to that fund over the last few years. And yet, in the photos my mother Linda posted on Facebook, there was never a contractor in sight. I clicked cancel. Then came the utilities. The electric bill, the gas, the water. I had put them on autopay 3 years ago when the power got cut off during a freeze because David forgot to mail the check. I had stepped in to ensure they wouldn't freeze. Now I looked at the rain lashing against the window of my rental. I was warm. I was safe. They were the ones who wanted a winter without me. I went into the vendor list. I removed my credit card from the utility portal. I removed it from the family cell phone plan. I removed it from the car insurance policy for my sister, Ashley. One by one I severed the lines. It was surgical. It was quiet. There was no screaming, no fighting, just the soft click of a trackpad. When the screen finally showed no scheduled transfers, I closed the laptop. The silence in the room felt different now. It wasn't empty. It was heavy with potential. I had just dismantled their entire financial ecosystem in less than 10 minutes. They didn't know it yet. They were probably at the house right now drinking eggnog, laughing about how they'd successfully kept me away. They didn't know that the lights were about to go out. I closed my eyes and let the silence wash over me, but my mind drifted back to the house. The Victorian on Elm Street. It was a beautiful, rotting monster of a building. My father, David, had insisted on buying it 10 years ago, even though it was already falling apart. He loved the way it looked from the street, the wraparound porch, the turret, the stained glass. He loved telling people he lived in the old Miller estate. It was a status symbol he wore like a medal, even though he couldn't afford to heat it properly. I remembered the smell of it, Damp wood and lemon polish used to hide the mildew. I remembered the winter I came home from basic training, shivering under 3 blankets because David refused to turn the thermostat above 62 degrees. He had told me it built character. Meanwhile, he was driving a leased luxury sedan he parked in the driveway where the neighbors could see it. That house had become a black hole for my money. I started sending checks 4 years ago when David called me, sounding desperate for the first time in his life. He said the bank was threatening foreclosure. He said he'd lose everything. He said he needed me. And like a fool I stepped up. $3,500 a month. $150,000 over 4 years. I had poured my savings, my combat pay, my entire financial future into that house. And for what? So Ashley could live there rent-free? My sister, the influencer, who was always one viral post away from making it big. She treated that house like her personal studio. She staged photos in the parlor I paid for. She filmed day-in-the-life videos in the kitchen I stocked. She told her followers she was living her best cottagecore life, conveniently leaving out the part where her big sister in the Air Force was footing the bill. Tonight there was a party at the house. Ashley's engagement party. I knew because I had seen the photos before I blocked her. She was wearing a cream silk dress that probably cost more than my first car. She was posing on the grand staircase, a glass of champagne in her hand, beaming at her fiancé, a guy named Kyle who drove a sports car and worked in crypto. The caption read, "So grateful for my family and this beautiful home we've built. #blessed #family heirloom. We've built." The audacity of it made my breath hitch. She hadn't built anything. She hadn't paid a dime. She had just stayed behind while I left, and apparently proximity was the only currency that mattered to my parents. They had given her the master suite, the one that was supposed to be mine when I visited, because she needed the space for her content. And when I had texted David to ask where I would sleep if I came home for Christmas, he had sent that text. "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." Because I was the reminder. I was the walking, talking bank statement they wanted to shred. If I was there, they couldn't pretend the house was theirs. They couldn't pretend Ashley was the successful one. My presence would ruin the fantasy they had constructed for Kyle and their friends. I was the ugly truth they wanted to hide in the attic. I opened the folder on my laptop labeled House Receipts. I started scrolling through the years of transfers. It wasn't just the mortgage. It was the renovation fund. $500 a month for emergency repairs. David had sent me photos of a leaky ceiling, a broken water heater, a cracking foundation. I had wired the money instantly, terrified my parents would be living in squalor. But looking at Ashley's photos now, at the pristine background, the expensive decor, the endless stream of new clothes, I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. The roof still leaked. I knew it did because Linda had complained about the buckets in the hallway just last month. So where had the money gone? Where had $24,000 of renovation funds disappeared to? I zoomed in on one of Ashley's photos. He was holding a designer bag, brand new. In the background, on the kitchen counter, was a stack of casino chips. My father's favorite casino was only 30 minutes away. The realization hit me like a physical blow. They weren't just using me to pay for the house. They were using me to pay for their delusions. I wasn't the dutiful daughter saving the family home. I was the mark. And tonight the mark was closing the account. The first notification hit at 12:03 a.m. I saw it because I was still awake, staring at the ceiling of my Airbnb, counting the cracks in the plaster. My phone lit up on the nightstand. A single text from David: "Payment didn't go through. Fix it." No, hello. No, Merry Christmas. Just a command. I didn't reply. I turned over and watched the rain streak the window. 10 minutes later, another text. "Megan, the power company just sent a shut-off warning. Did you change the card?" I imagined the scene at the Victorian. The party would be winding down, or maybe it was still in full swing. Ashley would be showing off her ring. Kyle would be bragging about his crypto wallet. And then the lights would flicker. The music would cut out. The warmth would start to seep out of the drafty rooms. My phone buzzed again. Linda this time. "Dad is really upset. Please just handle this so we can enjoy the evening. We can talk about everything later." Later. That was their favorite word. Later meant never. Later meant, after you've fixed our problems and we've forgotten you exist again. I didn't respond. By 1 a.m. the text had turned frantic. Ashley joined the chorus. Are you serious right now? We have guests here. The caterers are threatening to leave because the final payment bounced. You are ruining my engagement party. I picked up my phone then. I typed out a reply, my thumbs hovering over the keys. I'm not ruining anything. I'm just not paying for it. But I didn't send it. Explanation was a form of engagement and I was done engaging. I deleted the draft. Instead, I typed a single word, understood. I sent it to the group chat. The response was immediate and explosive. My phone vibrated so hard it danced across the table. David, understood? That's it? You think this is a game? Turn the money back on right now or don't bother coming home ever again. Linda, Megan, be reasonable. We just moved things around. You can sleep on the couch if you really want to come. We can make room. Ashley, you are so selfish. You're jealous because I'm happy and you're alone. Kyle thinks you're pathetic. I watched the messages roll in like a tide of toxic waste. Selfish. Pathetic. Jealous. The words used to hurt. They used to make me scramble to prove them wrong. But tonight, reading them in the cold, clean air of my rental, they just felt irrelevant. Like noise from a radio station that was slowly fading out of range. I typed another reply. Noted. The rage that followed was almost impressive. They called me names I hadn't heard since middle school. They threatened to call my commanding officer. Good luck with that. They threatened to sell my things. I had taken everything that mattered years ago. They threatened to disown me, they already had. I replied one last time. Done. Then I put the phone on, do not disturb, placed it face down on the table and went to sleep. For the first time in years I slept without dreaming of a collapsing house. The morning broke gray and relentless. I woke up at 0500, a habit the military had drilled into my bones, and made coffee in the rental's sleek, minimalist kitchen. I didn't check my phone. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what was waiting for me, a digital graveyard of guilt trips and threats. Instead, I opened my laptop and started a new spreadsheet. I titled it Audit, Project Ghost. I wasn't treating this like a family dispute anymore. I was treating it like a mission. The objective, full financial transparency. The target, my own history. I logged into my bank account and downloaded 5 years of statements. I pulled up the Venmo history where I'd sent emergency cash to Ashley. I accessed the credit card statements where I'd been an authorized user on the family emergency card. The one I paid off every month but never used myself. I started categorizing. Mortgage, $3,500 a month. $168,000 total. Renovation fund, $500 a month. $24,000 total. Utilities, average $300 a month. $14,400 total. Ashley's car insurance, $150 a month. $7,200 total. Emergency transfers, $12,500 total. The grand total stared back at me, a number so large it made my stomach turn. $226,100. That was a house. That was a retirement fund. That was my freedom, siphoned away in monthly installments to people who couldn't even bother to offer me a bed for Christmas. But the numbers weren't the worst part. The worst part was the patterns. I cross-referenced the renovation fund withdrawals with the dates on my parents' social media. Every time I sent money for a leak, there was a corresponding post from Ashley or my mother. From June 2019 to March 2022, I sent thousands for mold remediation, furnace repair, and foundation work. Each time my family posted festival trips, new furniture or casino check-ins. When I zoomed in on the latest bank statement, the withdrawal wasn't from a contractor. It was from a casino ATM. My foundation money went straight into a slot machine. The anger that hit wasn't hot. It was cold and razor-sharp. They hadn't just used me, they'd defrauded me. I was gathering the last pieces of evidence when a lawyer named Nathan Calloway called, not for my father but for my Uncle James, the real owner of the house. He told me the shocking truth. There was no mortgage. The house had been paid off years ago. My payments were supposed to be a tiny maintenance fee, but my parents had pocketed everything while lying that I lived there rent-free. Worse, by kicking me out and trying to move in my sister's fiancé, they had violated the trust. At the meeting that followed, I handed over a full accounting. Over $226,000 sent, none used as claimed. Every repair matched casino withdrawals and luxury purchases. My family panicked, denied, blamed, but then Uncle James walked in and ended it. He delivered an eviction notice. 30 days. The fallout was instant. Ashley's fiancé left. My parents moved into a one-bedroom. And James reimbursed every dollar I had spent, plus interest. 2 months later, in my new condo, I opened my laptop, deleted the audit file, and felt the past finally disappear. For the first time, my life and my money belonged to me. If you've ever had to buy your own freedom from the people who should have protected you, know this. You're not alone.